Hi, and welcome back to Between the Benches, your go-to source for all hockey news. My name is Austin.
And my name's JJ.
And today we're going to be going over the series between the Boston Bruins and the Carolina Hurricanes. This is going to be a rematch from last year and a very exciting season. So without further ado, let's just hop right into it.
Starting off with the Carolina Hurricanes playoff stats, they made quick work of the New York Rangers, going 3-0, making them the 5th seed in the East. They had 11 goals for, putting them 9th in the postseason, 4 goals against, which was the second best. Their power play was 14.3% successful, and their penalty kill was 92.9% successful, making their power play 14th in the league and their penalty kill 4th. And their coach's name is Rob Brind'Amour, who's a very experienced coach with them, who wants to get to the Stanley Cup final, which they just missed out on last year.
Yeah, Rob Brind'Amour also won the Stanley Cup with Carolina, so I'm sure he wants to win it as a coach this time around. Hopping on over to the Bruins side of things, they struggled mightily in their round-robin games, going 0-3, worst record, so they're the 4th seed. They had 4 goals for and 9 goals against. So they did good on the goals against front, but they just could not get that offense going. They had a 0% power play, just horrific in the round robin for them, especially with how lethal their power play usually is. And an 83.3% penalty kill, which is pretty good for the Bruins, but not where they want it to be. Their coach is Bruce Cassidy, who's a really hard, tough-nosed coach who I think is going to turn a lot of these problems around when they get started playing against the Carolina Hurricanes.
For the Carolina Hurricanes playoff stats with their players, leading the way in goals was a tie between Sebastian Aho and Svechnikov with 3 goals apiece.
Yeah, and then when we hop on over to the Boston side of things, 2 goals for Wagner, which is pretty good for him.
For points and assists, Sebastian Aho led the way. He had 5 assists and 8 points in total, so definitely a great start, and not to mention in 3 games. So fantastic play by him.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty unreal considering how everyone else looked in these playing rounds. Sebastian Aho really does look ready to play. Going over to the Boston side, honestly, not even worth mentioning anyone. 1 assist for an 8-way tie for leader in assists, and points, 2 points for McAvoy and Wagner. So really, they were kind of looking pretty pathetic, honestly, in the point department, and that's just across the board all around.
So for goalie games played, Mrazek did play more games, although he did get injured, so Reimer did have to go in for him. Reimer had a 1 goal against average and a .974 save percentage. Definitely both of those goalies can play well and clearly have in the playoffs already. So it'll be interesting to see if Mrazek comes back and if Reimer is in, how he does for him, because he did well in his 1 game against the Rangers.
Yeah, and then goalie stats, of course, it's going to be Tuukka. 2 games played, a 2.55 goals against and a .917 save percentage. Those aren't great numbers for Tuukka, though. Those are pretty good, but I think he wants to get into that 920 range and, really hold down the fort like he did last year in the playoffs, and I'm sure he's going to be able to bring that against the Carolina Hurricanes.
For players to watch for the Carolina Hurricanes, I went with Sebastian Aho for the star. I mean, those stats that we brought up before just really speak for themselves, and I believe he's going to carry on through what he's been doing already and hopefully get farther than he did last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, he really showed that he is a star with that play in against the New York Rangers. Really good pick there. For my star player, I picked David Pastrnak. Really just looking like a Hart Trophy future winner. Just been unreal every year with the Boston Bruins, and I expect him to be unreal in this series and really bring it to Carolina on the star front.
Yeah, absolutely. For something to prove, I put Slavin. The reason I put Slavin is because he's now has a higher role than before, now with Falk being off the team. So I definitely think he's going to want to prove to the team that we don't need Falk, I'm the guy.
Yeah, and for my something to prove, I picked Brad Marchand, one of the chirpiest players in the league, but also one of the best. And he really, wears the B on his chest with a lot of pride. And I think he takes a lot of fault for that Game 7. When you're such a vocal player, you take a lot of the heat back. So I think he still wants to prove that he's this best player, and he wants to carry his team to the playoffs, prove he's more than just licking guys on the ice.
For rebound player, I put Dzingel. The reason I put Dzingel is because he just hasn't been as good as what he was signed for and what he used to be back in Ottawa. So I bet he wants to rebound back to his old self and play higher level hockey.
Yeah, same thing for mine is Nick Ritchie. He was drafted super high. Everyone raved about this big body guy with skill and slick mitts, but he really hasn't turned into that, to the point where Anaheim is fine parting ways with him and a not too great deal for them. So I think he really is going to want to show he can be that great player. He can kind of be that offensive, physical star like Tom Wilson was for the Carolina Washington Capitals series last year, really dominating on both ends of the ice. So I think Nick Ritchie is going to have a huge series for sure.
For playoff warrior, it's a pretty easy pick for the Hurricanes going with Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7. He's played in 9 Game 7s in his career, going 8-1, and has won 3 Stanley Cups. That guy puts everything out on the ice every time he steps out there, and I believe he's going to do it this playoffs again.
Yeah, I mean, my playoff warrior is probably just as equally good. I'm picking Zdeno Chara. He's really been that backbone of the Boston Bruins. When you think Boston, you think Zdeno. He helped win a cup against the Vancouver Canucks. He bullied them his way into a first ring. He can do it again. I think he's going to want to do it against the Carolina Hurricanes. He's one of the most fit Boston Bruins despite his age, and I really think he's going to bring that physical play.
For a young gun, I went with Nikas. He's a young player who's come into the team, and he's definitely making a case for why he should be there every night, and I think he's very exciting to watch, so I can't wait to watch him this playoffs.
Yeah, Martin Nikas really has turned into looking to be a solid second-line center in the NHL. Maybe even a first-line center competing with Aho. He's just such a good young player, got that great skill. I'm really excited to watch that kid. For the young guns, for the Boston, however, they don't have a lot of young guys. They're kind of a really veteran, solid team, so I went with Jeremy Lauzon. He's a young defenseman, kind of a rookie, really looking to step into this lineup. There's going to be injuries, and they're really going to lean heavily on him. And if he can show that he's a solid player and can step up to the big boys, I think Boston will really like a kid like him.
I honestly think with rebound, you could have put the entire Bruins team after those first 3 games.
Oh, absolutely.
For our picks, starting out with my pick, I chose the Carolina Hurricanes in 5 games. I believe they're going to get revenge from last year. Boston just has not been playing great, while Carolina has been quite the opposite, sweeping the Rangers. So I think they'll have it not easy, but I believe there will be some close games, but in the end, they will push through in 5.
Yeah, I have the Boston Bruins losing to the Carolina Hurricanes in 7. I think it's going to be a tight series. Carolina has a lot of offensive power, but the Boston Bruins went to the Stanley Cup final last year. I think they're going to get bullied around at the start and wake up near the end, but I think it'll be too late. And when you give Mr. Game 7 to Game 7, he's going to take that treat any day, and I think he's really going to bring it home. When you look at the history of the Carolina Hurricanes, they kind of have this funny thing where they either don't make the playoffs or they go all the way to the conference final. They never really get out in the first round, and I think we're going to see that trend continue this year.
Absolutely. This is definitely going to be an exciting series to watch out of all of them, so my eyes will be on this.
Yeah, one of the 2 rematches we're seeing in this playoffs, so make sure you guys hit like and subscribe, leave a comment down below of who you think is going to win, and please stay tuned for our next video.